Hello brew dudes, and welcome to the Get to Know Your Hops process. This is where we're going to be discussing the process that we're going to use in order to keep things consistent between batches, but still kind of get to know what each hop has to offer. Now, if you haven't seen my first video that explains what this series is, go ahead and click the video link up here. Otherwise, let's go ahead and break down this process. For starters, these are going to be 4-gallon batches of pale ale. Pale ale being something that, one, I will want to drink 4 gallons of, but two, it's something that hits kind of down the middle of the road. It's not going to be too malty, it's also not going to be too yeasty. We want it to showcase the hops. That's the whole purpose of this series, so that's what we're going to be sticking with. In the recipe, we're going to be using 9 pounds of pale 2-row. For the mash, we're going to be doing a 60-minute mash at 152 degrees Fahrenheit. Keep in mind the water is going to need to be a little bit hotter than that because, well, the grains are going to suck some of the temperature out of that and bring it down to that 152 degrees that we desire. For the last 10 minutes of that mash, we're going to go ahead and raise the temperature up to 170 degrees Fahrenheit. This is just a mash out that will help make those sugars break down a little easier, not gum up, and make it so that it flows into our kettle more easily and hopefully keep us from getting a stuck mash. We will not be doing a sparge on these batches. Simply put, it's just a heck of a lot easier. And I'm going to be making a lot of these batches, so I want to make sure this is something that we can do really quickly. To add to that, we're doing a 45-minute boil instead of a typical traditional 60-minute boil. At the very beginning of that 45 minutes, we're going to go ahead and add our bittering hop, which is 0.15 ounce of Chinook. Chinook being just kind of a good high alpha acid hop, something that will give us a good bittering punch at the beginning, but not too much. Really only going to be adding roughly 8 to 9 IBUs with this bittering, just because we want to allow the desired hop to give us most of that bittering through the rest of the process. As well as the flavors that will be involved. So I kept this to a minimum just so that we're not going too crazy with that bittering hop that's not the desired hop that we want to kind of assess in this whole process. From there, we're going to add a ½ ounce of our desired hop at both 30-minute interval and the 15-minute interval. This will help us pull some of that bittering potential out of whatever hop we're using to kind of get an idea of what potential it has, as well as start to get some of those flavor profiles out of it. Once our boil comes to an end, we're going to go ahead and cool to 160 degrees Fahrenheit, where we're then going to add 2 ounces of the desired hop for 20 minutes. So that way it's a little below where hops typically isomerize. Hopefully I'm saying that right. And that way we can pull more of the flavor potential out of those hops. Now there are a couple caveats to this, or should I say exceptions to this. For incognito batches, so a couple of the hops I have incognito from Yakima Valley Hops. It's just an extract of that hop that's extra high in alpha acid, but mostly it's there for the flavor punch. In those batches, we're going to go ahead and still add 1 ounce for steeping at that same 160 degree temperature. But from there, we're going to add 20 milliliters of the incognito at 100 degrees. That way it's well below the isomerizing, and it's still going to be hot enough for it to dissolve into solution. From there, fermentation will happen in my 5-gallon kegs, and this is going to be under 10 psi of pressure. We're also going to be putting these in my fermentation chamber and keeping them at a fairly low temperature for the Imperial A07 that we're going to use, keeping them around the 65 degree Fahrenheit. That way, we're not going to get too much of ester production, not that Imperial A07 has much of that to begin with, but we're going to keep it low just to make sure that we don't get anything from that. 2 days into fermentation, we're going to go ahead and add 2 ounces of a dry hop. That's going to be, again, of the desired hop. And then from there, once it finishes fermenting, we're going to go ahead and move it to a serving keg where we get to taste the finished product. All in all, we're aiming to hit a 5.4% alcohol content. That way it's not too high that, well, you lose some of that hop flavor and you get more of those malt flavors or alcohol flavors. But it's not too low that we're losing out on the body of the beer. From there, the IBUs will be determined by the hop itself for the most part. The Chinook at the very beginning will add just a quick little bitter punch, but otherwise the rest of the bittering potential is going to come from that desired hop. We want to see what that hop and its potential is in both bittering and of course its flavor profile. And that's about it. I will be shooting each video with just the hop additions that I add in there, and just kind of briefly recapping what each hop tastes like at the end and pass that along to you. So really look forward to this, and it's going to be a long process. Like I said in the first video, there's 300 plus varieties of hop. Obviously I can't get my hands on every single variety, but of those that I can, I'll make one of these batches. Other than that, if you have any questions, feel free to leave them down in the comments below. If I missed something, I more than likely did. You know, when you're filming these, you gotta have a drink or two and you forget a thing or two. Anyway, until the first video, cheers.